Welcome to In the Kitchen with Grace. Today I am making a really fun bread recipe with my sourdough starter. I am doing ciabatta rolls for some sandwiches we're going to have for meals later this week. Now this recipe is a two-step, 2-day recipe because you want to let your dough sit in the refrigerator for a good 12 hours or so. I say overnight before you make your rolls and bake them in the oven. So this is a little bit of a longer recipe, but it is so good and so worth it. It's one of those ones that if you plan ahead with your meal planning, it's really quick and easy and simple to do. So really it's not time consuming, even though it's a two-step, 2-day process. Okay, so for the ciabatta rolls, this is gonna make about 8 rolls, and we are going to use bread flour. I like to use Hudson cream bread flour. It calls for salt. Usually I would use table salt, but I am using Himalayan pink salt today. It's kind of finely ground up, and I just feel like that flavor with the sandwiches that we're gonna do is gonna be really nice. And then we're going to do 1.5 cups of water and our sourdough starter. Okay, so to start, we are gonna do the water, the starter, and the salt together in the bowl. And I'm going to start with my sourdough starter. If you are new to sourdough, using sourdough, I have a really good, easy recipe for sourdough starter. Really only takes maybe like 5 days to a week to get that going real nice. Mine's been going for a while. I am going to give this a little bit of a mix. I fed it yesterday, last night, and so it's good to go this morning. And we are going to use about 1/2 cup, not quite 1/2 cup. Actually, let me grab my 1/2 cup here real quick. Because I'm going to use my cup, measuring cup for my flour. So sourdough starter is a little bit messy. It's a little bit of a goopy. So that is about 1/2 cup. Not quite, but just about right. It should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and put that into my bowl. While we're at it, I'm going to feed my sourdough starter since I just took some out. Put that into there. To feed your sourdough starter, it's half a cup of your bread flour and 1/4 cup of water. So let's see, where's my little 4th cup? This will work. It's an 1/8 cup. Grab my flour. It's a little more than 1/2 cup. It's okay. We'll feed her good. And then you just mix the water, the fresh flour and water into your sourdough starter. Scrape the sides really good. Get that flour mixed in. The flour is the food, it's the gluten that your yeast, natural yeast, and your sourdough starter eats and grows and makes it amazing. Okay, that's mixed real nice. I'm gonna put the lid back on her. We'll use it again another day for another recipe. Okay, so we have the just under 1/2 cup of sourdough starter. I'm going to do 1.5 cups of water. Now, bread can be a little bit finicky, so make sure you're using your measuring cups and measuring spoons get as close to accurate as you can. I have pre-measured my 1.5 cups of water in a bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and add that. And then my recipe for the sourdough ciabatta rolls calls for about a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half of salt. And then we're gonna mix this together nice and well. We wanna get that sourdough starter in there really good. Okay, and then we're going to add our flour, our bread flour, and it's going to call for 3.5 cups. And you want to be accurate here with your measuring. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in a little bit. Okay, there's 1. Got my 3.5 cups of flour added in, and we're going to mix this together well. And you should end up with some sticky ciabatta dough here. I'm gonna kind of mix this together just a little bit. Make sure we get all the bottom flour incorporated. That's actually a very soft and kind of fluffy, sticky dough. Okay. Now we are going to cover this for 30 minutes and let it rest. It has been about a half an hour, and I'm going to do some stretching and folding with my sourdough roll bread here. And it is still sticky, which is totally good. Get her out of the bowl here. Okay. You want to do about, I don't know, maybe 6 stretch and folds. And you want to go in different directions. Stretch and fold, stretch and fold. That's 3. And what this does is it's activating that gluten and the yeast. And then as you do this, it actually, whoa, fun little piece of dough. It gets kind of tough to stretch, which is a good thing. Okay. Give this a nice little pat. You want to have a bowl that you can put in the refrigerator, and it needs to be deep enough for your dough to rise. I usually would use a straight edged bowl, but mine are actually all full. I didn't think ahead. And so I'm going to use this bowl. This is almost a straight edge. It's a rounded, but it's not super round bowl. So you're gonna put your dough in there. I pre-spray mine with cooking spray with Pam so that the dough doesn't stick when I go to pull it back out. And then we are going to, I'm gonna mark the side of my bowl. I'm actually gonna push this down a little bit. And I'm gonna mark the side of my bowl here, and with a marker that just washes off. We want our dough to rise by about 75%. No lid on top of it. If you feel like you need to, you can put a towel sort of half cover. I call it a half cover, which means air still gets in there, but it's kind of somewhat protected still. That's great if you have pets in the house or kids that are gonna come by and try to poke at it. So we're gonna let this try to rise by about 75% with no lid, okay? And then after that, once it has risen, I'll show it to you when it's risen. Then we're gonna put it in the fridge with a lid on for a good 12 to 24 hours. And again, that's why it's a two-step roll dough process, because you gotta let it rise, you gotta let that yeast do its job, and then tomorrow when I'm ready to make the rolls, it'll be all set and ready to go. So yesterday we made our ciabatta roll dough with our sourdough starter, and we had performed some stretches and folds, and then we let it sit in the bowl without a lid and let it rise. And then I put a lid on it and put it in the fridge overnight. And so now it's the next day. This is the part 2 of our ciabatta roll recipe. And I am going to, what I have done is I took it out of the bowl, I put some flour on my countertop, and then I patted a little bit of flour on top, and I kept the cover over it, obviously to keep things out of it, and then I have let it sit for about an hour. So now I am going to get it into a rectangle, and this is a fun little pan that I got off of Amazon. It is just like a French loaf pan, and so I'm going to use this to make my little ciabatta rolls in. And I'm going to take my dough, and it's got some flour on it. I'm going to put a little flour on my hands. Brought a little more flour over. Don't want it too floury, but I'm going to kind of get this into, I'm going to do a quick fold here, and then I'm going to kind of get this into a rectangle. Kind of work it together here. Some stretching, a little folding. And so the sandwiches that I'm going to make with my ciabatta rolls, I'm doing a Cubano style. We did a pork loin roast with glaze in the slow cooker for a meal. And so I'm going to save a little bit of that pork meat to do a Cubano sandwich for my husband because he loves those. And then I'm going to do a toasted Italian one with salami and pesto for me and the kids. And then also a honey ham and Swiss with a homemade poppy seed honey mustard dressing. So those are the sandwiches that we're gonna make with these. And get this, it's a little pillowy right there. I feel like that is big enough to make some. Okay, I'm gonna grab my knife and we're gonna cut these. I'm gonna cut across here. Actually, we're gonna cut this way. And then we're gonna just place them into our cute little French loaf pan here. Okay, and then I am going to bake these in my oven. Now, this is a two-step baking process. I'm going to bake them in the oven at 475 degrees for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to lower the temperature down to 450 degrees and cook them for about another 7 to 10 minutes, okay? Look at these ciabatta rolls. Oh my goodness. They are puffy, they are soft, they smell amazing, they are so good. These are gonna make some amazing ciabatta roll sandwiches.